3 words 11 times becomes more than a title. When contemplated with the depth of inner stillness, it transforms into a mantra that the soul yearns to understand. As these 3 words repeat again and again, they act like gentle knocks on the door of your consciousness, urging you to awaken to a higher rhythm of life. When a seeker hears a simple phrase echoed many times, something extraordinary happens. The mind slows, the heart opens, and the inner world begins to reveal its hidden corridors. In this sacred repetition, you are invited to step beyond the restless motions of daily living and sense the subtle pulse of divine energy that flows quietly beneath every breath. 3 words 11 times is not merely sound, it is vibration, and vibration is the language of the universe. All creation began with a vibration, and every great transformation begins with one as well. When these words repeat in the chamber of your awareness, they become a gentle whisper calling you to look inward, to the place where fears dissolve and courage awakens. This repetition becomes a bridge between the finite and the infinite, between your human struggles and your divine possibilities. It is in this bridge space that the heart learns to trust the unseen guidance always surrounding it, waiting to be recognized. 3 words 11 times directs attention away from chaos and toward clarity. In a world overflowing with noise, distraction, and urgency, simple repetition has the power to still the waves of the mind. When the mind is still, even for a moment, the light of intuition begins to shine. You may start to notice answers that were always present but drowned beneath mental clutter. You may feel a presence that is gentle yet mighty, urging you to rise above your limitations. The more you allow these words to echo inside, the more they carve a sacred pathway into your consciousness, a path that leads upward, inward, and onward. 3 words 11 times reminds you that transformation is not achieved through force but through alignment. Just as a seed does not strain to become a tree, the soul does not strain to awaken. It simply aligns itself with the quiet call of truth. Repetition of meaningful words aligns your energy, your focus, and your deepest intentions with that truth. Every time these words rise within you, they wash away a layer of doubt, fear, or hesitation. Every repetition becomes a step, every step becomes a shift, and every shift becomes a doorway to a more luminous state of being. The power of repetition awakens hidden layers of consciousness because repetition is not merely the act of hearing something again and again. It is the gradual chiseling of the mind until its deeper chambers begin to open. When a phrase, a thought, or a truth returns repeatedly, it pushes past the surface thoughts that occupy the restless mind and begins to sink into the subtle recesses where real change occurs. The mind, by its very nature, scatters easily, jumping from one idea to another, tossed by desires, fears, and sensory impressions. But repetition is like a steady hand guiding an untrained horse, bringing it back gently each time it wanders. Through this returning, through this steady circling around a single idea, the scattered mental energy begins to concentrate, and concentrated energy is the key that unlocks the inner world. Hidden layers of consciousness do not open under force or pressure. They open when the mind becomes steady, relaxed, and attuned. Repetition acts as a constant reminder, a rhythmic tapping on the inner door, a subtle invitation to go deeper than habitual thinking. When you repeat a thought, filled with truth, it begins to vibrate at a higher frequency than ordinary thoughts. At first you only hear the words. After a while you feel their meaning. Then suddenly you start to witness shifts within yourself. Shifts in mood, shifts in understanding, and shifts in perception. Eventually these shifts reveal to you that the words have passed beyond the intellect and begun to reshape the very structure of your awareness. The conscious mind receives information quickly, but forgets it just as quickly. The subconscious mind, however, absorbs through repetition, through rhythm, through consistency. When a powerful idea is repeated with sincerity and focus, it begins to embed itself in the subconscious, which is the soil from which thoughts, emotions, habits, and decisions grow. Most people try to change their lives by trying to change surface behavior, but surface behavior is only the flower, the subconscious is the root. Repetition sends nourishment to that root. As the idea sinks deeper and deeper, it begins transforming the root system, and through that transformation, the entire tree of your life begins to grow differently. Every spiritual tradition has understood the value of repetition. Mantras, affirmations, prayers, sacred phrases all exist because repetition refines the mind and elevates consciousness. When the same truth is repeated, it dissolves old mental patterns much like gentle waves gradually wear away hardened rock. The first few repetitions may feel mechanical, but as you continue, the vibration changes. The mind starts to synchronize with the meaning behind the words. The heart begins to awaken. A subtle awareness begins to arise that was previously hidden beneath layers of noise, doubts, and beliefs formed long ago. You begin to feel connected to something deeper than your usual self, something spacious, peaceful, and quietly luminous. Repetition also works because the mind is sculpted by whatever it consistently encounters. If you constantly hear negativity, your mind becomes negative. If you constantly hear fear, your mind becomes fearful. But if you repeat a powerful, elevating truth, that truth begins to carve a new internal pathway. Each repetition is like placing a small stone on a scale. One stone makes no difference, but when you add stone after stone after stone, one day the scale tips and a breakthrough occurs. The same happens in consciousness. At some unpredictable moment, the repetition accumulates enough force to break through an inner barrier. Suddenly you understand something you never understood before. Suddenly you see yourself or the world with clarity you never had. That breakthrough is the awakening of a hidden layer. The deeper layers of consciousness are not inactive. They are simply unnoticed. They hold memories, impressions, latent abilities, intuitive guidance, and spiritual perception. But they remain dormant when the conscious mind is too noisy or unfocused. Repetition quiets that noise. When the mind hears the same phrase many times, it stops resisting and starts listening. When it starts listening, it begins to soften. And when it softens, the deeper layers begin to communicate. This communication can come as insight, peace, sudden understanding, or a subtle shift in awareness that makes everything feel different even though nothing outward has changed. Repetition also awakens the hidden layers by training the mind to stay with one thought long enough for its truth to reveal itself. Most people abandon thoughts too quickly. They read a sentence, hear a wise saying, or receive guidance, but the mind moves on before the truth has time to penetrate. Repetition forces the mind to remain with the thought. And when the mind remains, the thought deepens. The deeper it goes, the more it awakens. The more it awakens, the more the inner world rises to meet it. Through repetition, a person can build unshakable focus. Through repetition, a person can purify intentions. Through repetition, a person can remove inner obstacles that have lingered for years. The power of repetition is the power of transformation, because repetition gives the mind the time and stillness it needs to awaken what has always lived silently within the soul. Simple words can create profound inner transformation when deeply absorbed, because simplicity carries a power that complexity often hides. The human mind is accustomed to chasing elaborate ideas, vast philosophies, and intricate explanations, believing that depth must come from difficulty. Yet truth reveals itself most clearly in simplicity. A simple phrase holds no clutter. It enters the mind like a clear beam of light, unobstructed and direct. When the mind encounters something simple, it has space to breathe, space to feel, space to connect. Complexity entertains the intellect, but simplicity awakens the soul. When simple words settle into consciousness, they form ripples that travel further than the mind initially realizes. Deep absorption is what turns these simple words into currents of transformation. The mind often hears something once and immediately moves on, never allowing the meaning to sink beneath the surface. But when you return to simple words again and again, they begin to penetrate the outer layers of thought. Their meaning becomes fuller, richer, more alive. A phrase that once seemed ordinary reveals new dimensions each time it rises in your awareness. The more you contemplate it, the more it shapes your inner world. Simple words act like seeds cast into the soil of the mind. If left unattended, nothing sprouts, but if nurtured with repeated attention, a mighty tree of inner understanding begins to grow. The reason simple words have such transformative potential is because they bypass intellectual resistance. Complex phrases demand analysis, they invite judgment, they awaken comparison, doubt, argument. But simple words slip through the guarded doorway of the mind. They do not provoke defensiveness or debate. They simply enter, rest, and wait. Over time, they begin to soften the rigid structures that the ego builds. They do not fight, they dissolve. They do not command, they remind. They do not overwhelm, they gently redirect. Through this quiet influence, they reshape patterns of thinking that have remained unchanged for years. Transformation begins not with outer effort, but with inner alignment. Simple words open the space for this alignment to occur. When you focus on a powerful yet uncomplicated phrase, your mind begins to harmonize with its meaning. The vibration of the words becomes the vibration of your thoughts, and your thoughts become the vibration of your actions. Inner transformation is not sudden or forceful, it is gradual and subtle, like dawn slowly brightening the sky. Simple words, when absorbed deeply, initiate this dawning from within. They illuminate the corners of consciousness that have long remained dim, and in that soft light, you begin to see your life with new clarity. Simple words also awaken intuition, because intuition does not communicate in complicated language. Intuition speaks in impressions, in feelings, in quiet certainties. When you repeat simple phrases that carry truth, your inner sense begins to resonate with them. The resonance creates a bridge between conscious thought and intuitive knowing. You begin to recognize the difference between the noise of the mind and the whisper of the inner voice. The more deeply you absorb these simple words, the more naturally your intuition flows. Guidance arises effortlessly, decisions become clearer, confusion fades like mist touched by sunlight. There is also a spiritual reason why simplicity transforms. The deepest truths of existence are not complicated. They are profound but not complex. Peace is simple. Love is simple. Awareness is simple. Presence is simple. Connection with the soul is simple. It is the restless mind that makes things difficult. When you bring simple words into your awareness, you invite yourself back to your essential nature. You begin to identify less with the mental storms and more with the quiet sky behind them. This shift is the heart of transformation. Simple words act as reminders of who you are beneath all the layers accumulated through life. The transformative power of simple words becomes even more potent when they are infused with sincerity. When you repeat or reflect on a simple phrase with genuine feeling, the emotional depth carries it further into the subconscious. Emotion energizes intention. It gives the words life, warmth, presence. A simple phrase spoken without feeling is a whisper lost in a crowded room. The same phrase spoken with sincerity becomes a bell whose tone continues to vibrate long after the sound fades. Sincere repetition builds inner strength. It anchors the mind. It cultivates steadiness in the midst of external turbulence. Another reason simple words create transformation is because they make space for contemplation. The mind cannot contemplate complexity for long without becoming fatigued. Simple words, however, can be held in awareness without strain. You can carry them through your day, repeating them in silence or feeling them in moments of stillness. They become companions on the path, always present, always guiding. Through repeated contemplation, insights arise naturally without force. You begin to see new connections, new meanings, new possibilities. The simple words become a lens through which you view yourself and the world, and this lens reveals truths that were previously hidden. Simple words have the power to dissolve inner conflict. When you hold a simple truth in your mind, the contradictions within your thoughts begin to settle. The mind stops pulling in opposite directions. Instead, it aligns with clarity. This alignment quiets the emotional disturbances that often cloud perception. Inner harmony emerges not from struggle but from resonance with truth. Simple words create this resonance when they are absorbed deeply, consistently, and sincerely. Thus, simple words become a subtle instrument of awakening, working quietly beneath the surface, shaping inner perception, refining awareness, and inviting the soul to rise into its natural light. Stillness of mind opens the path to intuitive clarity because the mind, when restless, behaves like a turbulent lake whose surface cannot reflect the sky. Thoughts churn, emotions ripple, and the deeper layers of awareness remain hidden beneath constant movement. In such a state, intuition cannot be heard, not because it is absent, but because its voice is subtle. Intuition does not shout, it whispers. It speaks in gentle impressions, quiet certainties, and delicate awareness that can only be perceived when the inner world becomes calm. When the mind grows still, the surface clears, and what was always present becomes visible. This clarity is not created by effort, it is revealed by stillness. Stillness is not the absence of thought, but the absence of disturbance. Thoughts may continue to arise, but they float through the mind without leaving heavy imprints. When you stop clinging to thoughts or pushing them away, the mind naturally settles, much like a jar of water settles when left undisturbed. The mind's true nature is peaceful, turbulence is temporary, and caused by constant identification with passing waves of thought. As stillness deepens, awareness begins to expand beyond the narrow confines of analytical thinking. You start to notice the space between thoughts, the quiet presence behind every moment, a presence untouched by external events. Intuitive clarity emerges from this presence because intuition belongs to the deeper dimension of yourself. It does not come from the analytical layers of the mind, but from the silent depth beneath them. When the surface noise fades, you begin to sense what has always been guiding you from within. Decisions that once felt confusing become simple. Situations that once felt overwhelming become manageable. Your perception sharpens, not through logical deduction, but through a natural inner knowing that feels effortless and true. This clarity is not emotion-driven nor intellectual. It is a serene certainty arising from direct connection with your inner wisdom. Stillness of mind also dissolves the distortions created by fear, desires, and past conditioning. These internal influences act like fog on a window, obscuring your inner vision. When the mind is restless, you often interpret life through these distortions, mistaking fear for intuition or reacting from old patterns rather than true comprehension. But when stillness returns, these distortions settle. The fog clears and vision becomes transparent. In this transparency, intuition can finally present itself without being mixed with the noise of subconscious reactions. You begin to distinguish between the quiet voice of truth and the loud impulses of fear or desire. Stillness sharpens attention. A restless mind scatters energy. It jumps from one thought to another without depth. This scattered energy creates confusion and weakens perception. But a still mind gathers energy, consolidating it like light concentrated through a lens. When attention becomes steady, it illuminates the inner world with precision. This concentrated attention is the same energy that fuels intuition. With the mind quiet and focused, insights that were previously beyond reach rise to the surface easily. You begin to see the connections between events, understand people's intentions more clearly, and sense the right course of action without external validation. Intuitive clarity is not something you earn, it is something you uncover. It has always been a part of your inner nature. But the noise of the mind, like loud music drowning out a soft melody, keeps you from hearing it. Stillness lowers the volume of mental activity until the melody of intuition becomes audible once more. This is why deep silence often brings solutions to problems that seemed impossible to solve through effort. When the mind stops striving, truth has space to emerge. The path to intuitive clarity through stillness is also connected to emotional balance. Emotions, when intense, send waves through the mind that disrupt inner perception. Stillness gently steadies these emotional waves, allowing you to feel without being overwhelmed. Emotional turbulence narrows your perspective, but emotional calm broadens it. As calm expands, intuition blossoms, because intuition requires spaciousness. In spaciousness, you can sense possibilities, outcomes, and subtle truths that a contracted emotional state would hide from you. Stillness of mind deepens self-awareness. Without stillness, you live mostly on the surface of yourself, reacting to life rather than understanding it. In stillness, you begin to observe your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. You start to witness your emotions instead of drowning in them. This witnessing creates a profound inner shift. You become the observer rather than the reactor. In the state of observing, intuitive clarity naturally awakens, for the observer is not entangled, the observer sees clearly. Stillness also strengthens your connection to the present moment. Intuition operates only in the now, never in the past or future. When the mind drifts constantly into memories, worries, or projections, it cannot access the fresh perception that intuition provides. Stillness anchors you in the present moment, where clarity is found. In this presence, life feels more vivid, more aligned, and more meaningful. You begin to experience events from a deeper awareness rather than from habitual patterns, and this shift enhances intuitive perception. The more you cultivate stillness, the more intuitive clarity becomes a natural part of your life. It stops being an occasional glimpse and becomes a steady inner compass. With time, you learn to trust this inner compass, for it consistently guides you toward what brings growth, peace, and authenticity. It never confuses, never misleads, never pressures. It simply reveals. And through its quiet revelations, the path ahead becomes illuminated from within. Inner alignment, not force, leads to true spiritual growth because the soul unfolds naturally when it is in harmony with its deeper purpose. Forcing change creates resistance, but aligning with truth creates transformation. When you try to push yourself into growth through sheer effort, tension arises. This tension tightens the mind, contracts the heart, and disrupts the delicate balance required for inner evolution. Force may produce temporary results, but they fade quickly because they are built on strain rather than understanding. Alignment, however, works from the inside outward. It connects your thoughts, emotions, and actions with your highest intention, creating a coherent path through which spiritual awareness can flow freely. Inner alignment begins with honesty about what you truly seek. Many people pursue spiritual growth while still clinging to fears, desires, or identities that contradict their intentions. This creates an internal friction that slows progress. But when your inner world becomes unified, when your thoughts support your aspirations and your emotions cooperate with your goals, the energy within you begins to move in a single direction. This unified movement creates momentum. Momentum deepens awareness. Awareness expands consciousness, and expansion is the essence of spiritual growth. None of this requires force. It requires sincerity, clarity, and willingness to let go of what no longer serves your higher purpose. The reason force does not lead to lasting growth is because the mind cannot be bullied into awakening. You may discipline yourself. You may push yourself. But awakening is not a reaction to pressure. It is a response to openness. When the mind relaxes its grip, When the heart softens, when your inner being becomes receptive, the deeper truths of life begin to reveal themselves. Force creates noise in consciousness. Alignment creates silence. And it is in silence that wisdom is heard. Spiritual growth is not a mountain you climb through strain. It is a space within you that expands when you stop resisting the natural flow of your own evolution. Inner alignment also means acting from your center rather than from external pressures. Many people attempt to grow by imitating others, chasing ideals, or trying to meet expectations that are not aligned with their authentic nature. This leads to exhaustion, confusion, and self-doubt. But when you align with your inner center, you stop measuring yourself by outer standards. You stop seeking validation from others. You stop pretending. In this authenticity, spiritual growth becomes organic. You move from your true self, not from a constructed identity. Every step feels lighter because it is taken from alignment, not obligation. Alignment brings clarity. When you are aligned, you understand why you are walking your path. You see what nourishes your spirit and what drains it. You sense the direction in which you are meant to move. Confusion arises when the mind pulls one way and the heart pulls another, but alignment unites them. When inner harmony is established, decisions become clear without struggle. The path becomes visible without being forced. You begin to trust the quiet guidance emerging from within, and that trust strengthens your spiritual grounding. Spiritual growth cannot be forced because the deeper aspects of the self respond to gentle awareness, not harsh control. The subconscious mind relaxes when approached with patience and compassion. The heart opens when treated with kindness. The intuition flourishes in an atmosphere of trust, and the spirit reveals itself when the noise of pressure fades. Inner alignment creates this atmosphere. It nurtures the inner self the way sunlight nurtures a flower. The flower does not force itself to bloom, it blooms because the conditions are right. Similarly, your spiritual nature unfolds when your inner conditions support it. True growth is gradual. It cannot be rushed. When you align with your higher intentions consistently, small shifts happen daily. You may not notice them at first, but slowly your thoughts become more peaceful, your reactions become more centered, your awareness becomes more spacious. These subtle shifts accumulate into deep transformation. Force tries to change everything at once and collapses quickly. Alignment changes one layer at a time but changes it completely. This is why aligned growth is lasting. Inner alignment also dissolves internal conflict. When you are misaligned, part of you wants progress while another part resists it. This leads to exhaustion and stagnation. But when alignment is present, all parts of your being cooperate. Your mind supports your growth, your emotions reinforce your direction, your actions reflect your inner truth. This cooperation creates inner strength, and with strength comes stability on the spiritual path. Stability keeps you steady even when life challenges you, and this steadiness is essential for deep growth. Alignment deepens your connection with the present moment. Force focuses on the future, on results, on speed. Alignment focuses on now. It grounds you in this breath, this step, this choice. Spiritual growth happens only in the present. You cannot force awakening tomorrow. You can only align today. As you anchor yourself in presence, you begin to notice subtleties you once overlooked. The quiet movements of intuition, the gentle nudges from the heart, the silent guidance that has always been whispering beneath your thoughts. These subtleties guide you toward deeper awareness without effort. Inner alignment also transforms your relationship with challenges. When misaligned, challenges feel like obstacles. But when aligned, challenges become teachers. You see their purpose. You understand what they are trying to refine within you. You respond with awareness rather than resistance. This shift allows obstacles to become catalysts for awakening rather than sources of suffering. Alignment does not eliminate difficulty. It elevates your ability to grow through it. The more aligned you become, the more natural your spiritual growth feels. It stops being something you do and becomes something you allow. Growth arises on its own from within, guided by the intelligence of your soul, sustained by the harmony you cultivate in your inner world. Vibrational awareness connects the seeker to universal guidance, because every thought, emotion, and intention creates a subtle frequency that interacts with the energetic fabric of existence. The universe does not communicate through words or logic, it communicates through vibration. When your vibrational state becomes refined, elevated, and steady, you begin to sense signals, impressions, and intuitive currents that were previously hidden beneath the noise of scattered thoughts and emotional turbulence. This awareness is not something supernatural, it is the natural language of the soul. Every being is immersed in a sea of vibration, but only those who quiet themselves enough to feel the rhythm of this sea become aware of its guidance. At every moment, you are broadcasting energy, and at every moment, the universe is responding to that energy. When your vibrational state is clouded by fear, anger, doubt, or confusion, the signals you receive are distorted. The outer world reflects this internal disruption, and guidance appears unclear. But when you elevate your vibration through stillness, sincerity, and inner alignment, you become attuned to a higher frequency. On this higher frequency, the universe communicates with clarity, offering direction not through forceful signs but through gentle nudges, intuitive knowing, and synchronicities that feel too precise to be accidental. Vibrational awareness is the sensitivity to these subtleties. It is the recognition that every thought carries a tone, every emotion carries a color, every intention carries a resonance, and every state of mind shapes the quality of your inner perception. When your vibration rises, your perception becomes finer, more delicate, and more expansive. You begin to notice the movement of energy behind situations, the emotional undercurrents behind conversations, and the spiritual significance behind events that once appeared ordinary. This heightened sensitivity does not overwhelm you. Instead, it strengthens you, because it connects you directly to the flow of universal intelligence. Guidance from the universe is always present, but it becomes accessible only when your inner vibration matches the frequency of that guidance. It is like tuning a radio. If you are even slightly off the correct frequency, the message becomes static. But when you tune your vibration through clarity, compassion, patience, and presence, the static fades. Suddenly you hear what was always being broadcast. This clarity brings a sense of companionship on the path, a feeling that you are not navigating life alone, but in partnership with a greater wisdom that knows your path better than your analytical mind ever could. Vibrational awareness also transforms your relationship with your own inner states. You begin to sense how certain thoughts immediately lower your vibration, making you feel heavy or clouded, while other thoughts lift your vibration, making you feel expansive and clear. This recognition becomes a compass. Without needing external instruction, you naturally gravitate toward inner states that elevate you, because you begin to feel their effect directly. You avoid negativity not because you should, but because you sense how it disrupts your connection. You choose peace not because it sounds noble, but because it aligns you with the guidance that moves through subtle vibrations. Through vibrational awareness, the seeker learns to listen with more than the ears. You begin to listen with your entire being. You feel truth rather than analyze it. You sense direction rather than calculate it. This sensing arises from the soul's inherent connection to the universal field. When your vibration becomes steady, this connection strengthens, and guidance flows effortlessly. You may receive sudden insights that clarify your next step, or you may feel a gentle pull toward a certain choice without knowing why. When you follow these vibrational cues, you begin to notice that life unfolds with more harmony, timing, and grace. Vibrational awareness also bridges the gap between the inner and outer worlds. When your vibration is elevated, the external world reflects this elevation back to you. Opportunities appear that resonate with your inner state. People enter your life who mirror your level of awareness. Challenges transform into lessons that match your capacity for growth. This reflection is not coincidence, it is the universal law responding to your vibrational signature. By changing your vibration, you change your relationship with reality. You begin to live from the inside out, rather than from the outside in. The universe guides those who are receptive. Receptivity is a vibrational state. It is created by openness, trust, and willingness to let go of resistance. When the seeker cultivates these states, the vibration becomes fluid rather than rigid, flexible rather than defensive. In this fluidity, energy moves freely, and guidance flows without obstruction. When resistance dissolves, the universe can direct you more easily. This direction may come through intuition, through inner peace that accompanies the right choice, or through synchronicities that appear at precisely the moment you need them. Vibrational awareness also nurtures spiritual discernment. As your sensitivity to energy increases, you begin to discern which thoughts arise from fear and which arise from wisdom, which emotions are remnants of the past, and which are intuitive signals for the present, which impulses come from ego, and which come from the soul. This discernment is essential on the spiritual path, because without it, you may mistake emotional impulses for guidance. But as your vibration becomes purer, the difference becomes unmistakable. Guidance feels calm, steady, and clear. Ego-driven impulses feel urgent, chaotic, or heavy. The more attuned your vibration, the easier it becomes to distinguish one from the other. Ultimately, vibrational awareness becomes the seeker's compass, map, and guide. It connects you to a living intelligence woven into the fabric of the universe, an intelligence that responds to your vibration, aligns you with your path, and gently directs your steps through subtle energetic currents that can be sensed only when the inner world grows quiet, elevated, and deeply aware consistent focus refines the heart and elevates personal will because the mind, when scattered, dissipates energy, leaving the soul fragmented and uncertain. Life is filled with distractions that constantly pull attention in different directions, from fleeting thoughts and desires to external events that demand reaction. Without focus, even the most profound intentions lose their power, and the heart becomes clouded by indecision and confusion. But when attention is consistently directed toward a chosen purpose, the energy that would otherwise be wasted begins to concentrate, forming a clear stream of force that moves through the mind, emotions, and actions. This concentration nurtures the heart, shaping it into an instrument of discernment and courage. Consistent focus is more than mere attention. It is sustained awareness that resists the pull of superficial impulses. The world constantly invites the mind to wander, to indulge in trivial pursuits, to chase fleeting pleasures, or to fixate on unproductive thoughts. Each diversion, though small, erodes the clarity of intention. Focus acts as an anchor, preventing the mind from drifting into aimlessness. As the mind remains steady, the heart begins to learn the rhythm of disciplined alignment, recognizing which choices reflect truth and which reflect fleeting desire. Through repeated practice, attention becomes a form of inner refinement, gradually polishing the heart's ability to perceive what is essential. When focus is sustained, personal will is strengthened. The will is not merely the ability to force action but the power to act with purpose, clarity, and determination. Without focus, will becomes weak, like a flame buffeted by wind. It can ignite briefly but is soon extinguished. But when energy is consistently applied toward a meaningful direction, will becomes steady, unwavering, and resilient. This cultivated will enables the seeker to navigate challenges, resist temptations that derail progress, and maintain integrity even when circumstances test resolve. A refined will is inseparable from a refined heart, because decisions made from clarity are inherently aligned with the deeper purpose of the self. Consistent focus also develops the ability to penetrate superficiality. The heart, when scattered, perceives only surface impressions and reacts to immediate stimuli. But when the mind is disciplined and attention directed repeatedly toward meaningful objects of thought, subtle truths begin to emerge. Layers of confusion, misconception, and emotional turbulence gradually dissolve. The heart gains the capacity to discern reality from illusion, truth from deception, and lasting value from temporary allure. This refinement nurtures wisdom, for wisdom arises not from the accumulation of information, but from the deep understanding that comes when attention is held steadily long enough to reveal what is essential. The process of focus strengthens patience and perseverance. In a world of instant gratification, the ability to maintain attention over time is rare. Most efforts are abandoned at the first sign of difficulty or distraction. Consistent focus trains the mind to endure, the heart to remain engaged, and the will to persist. Through repetition, the seeker learns that mastery is not achieved through haste, but through deliberate, steady application of effort. Each moment of sustained attention accumulates, forming a foundation upon which higher levels of understanding, spiritual growth, and personal transformation are built. Focus also cultivates emotional stability. The heart, when scattered, is easily disturbed by external events, reactive thoughts, and fluctuating moods. But as attention is brought back again and again to what truly matters, emotional turbulence subsides. The heart becomes more centered, less swayed by the temporary currents of fear, desire, or frustration. Emotional clarity allows for wiser decisions and deeper empathy. It connects the heart to its true source, enabling a calm and balanced approach to challenges and relationships. Consistent focus enhances awareness of the present moment. When attention drifts, consciousness becomes fragmented between past regrets and future anxieties. Life is lived superficially, and the lessons embedded in each experience remain unnoticed. But when the mind is disciplined and the heart concentrated, the present moment becomes fully realized. Insight emerges naturally from this attentive state. Intuition is strengthened, as the subtle messages of the soul can only be perceived when the mind is quiet and present. The deeper one sustains focus, the more accessible these intuitive impressions become, guiding action with clarity and precision. Focus also allows the cultivation of alignment between intention and action. The heart may desire one thing while the mind is pulled in multiple directions, and the will may waver under pressure. Through consistent attention, these three forces, heart, mind, and will, begin to harmonize. Action flows more naturally from intention, creating coherence in life. This harmony strengthens personal integrity, fosters inner confidence, and generates momentum in the pursuit of higher goals. When thoughts, emotions, and actions are aligned, the energy that previously scattered is now concentrated in a coherent flow, multiplying its impact. As focus deepens over time, the heart itself becomes refined. Subtle qualities such as patience, discernment, compassion, and perseverance are cultivated. The heart learns to act from clarity rather than impulse, from wisdom rather than habit. Personal will is elevated not through struggle, but through deliberate application of steady attention. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable are met with calm determination. Choices that once appeared confusing are now guided by clarity and insight. Life begins to unfold in greater harmony, as the inner being is strengthened by the consistent practice of focused attention. Through consistent focus, the seeker gradually awakens to the profound power inherent in attention. Each act of mindful concentration refines the heart, sharpens the mind, and elevates personal will. Energy is transformed from chaos into harmony, from distraction into purpose, and from potential into realization. The practice of focused attention becomes both the path and the vehicle of growth, quietly guiding the soul toward clarity, strength, and higher consciousness. Quiet contemplation reveals strength beyond outer circumstances, because true power is never found in external conditions, possessions, or achievements. Outer circumstances are fleeting, unpredictable, and often beyond one's control, yet the mind tends to measure success, security, and happiness by them. When you rely solely on the external world for strength, the slightest change, the smallest obstacle, can destabilize you. Quiet contemplation, however, allows you to withdraw attention from these external fluctuations and turn inward, where the source of unwavering strength resides. This inner strength is constant, immutable, and accessible at any moment, regardless of outer circumstances, because it arises from the unchanging core of consciousness that observes all experiences without being carried away by them. Through quiet contemplation, the mind gradually becomes still, and stillness itself is a reservoir of strength. A turbulent mind reflects and amplifies the instability of life. Thoughts race, worries multiply, and emotions rise like waves in a storm. But when the mind is quiet, it is like a calm lake whose surface perfectly mirrors the sky. In that calm reflection, clarity emerges. You can see the patterns of life as they are, without exaggeration or distortion. In this clarity, the heart discovers its own resilience. You realize that you can respond to difficulties without panic, make decisions with discernment rather than fear, and act from a center that remains steady despite external upheaval. Quiet contemplation also cultivates self-awareness, which is the foundation of inner strength. By observing your thoughts, emotions, and reactions without immediate judgment or attachment, you begin to understand the sources of your impulses and fears. Awareness of these inner movements allows you to navigate them, rather than be controlled by them. You learn to recognize patterns that previously led to confusion or despair, and you develop the ability to pause, reflect, and choose your responses consciously. This conscious response is far more powerful than any reaction driven by external pressure because it arises from understanding, rather than compulsion. The act of withdrawing into contemplation strengthens the connection between the mind and deeper intuitive guidance. When the mind is quiet, subtle impressions and insights become perceptible. These insights often offer solutions, clarity, or reassurance that external sources cannot provide. In the midst of life's challenges, this guidance becomes a reliable source of support, independent of circumstances. Outer conditions may change unpredictably, but inner wisdom remains a stable anchor. Contemplation sharpens your ability to listen to this inner voice, fostering confidence and courage even in the face of uncertainty or adversity. Strength revealed through quiet contemplation is also tied to emotional resilience. When the heart becomes still, it is less susceptible to the fluctuations caused by stress, disappointment, or conflict. Emotional storms arise less frequently because you are less entangled in reactive patterns. The calm awareness cultivated in contemplation allows the heart to observe emotions without being overwhelmed. Emotions are experienced fully, but do not dictate actions. This balance of feeling and detachment empowers you to maintain equanimity, think clearly, and act decisively even when external circumstances seem chaotic or threatening. Through regular contemplative practice, patience naturally develops. Patience is not learned by waiting for circumstances to improve. It is cultivated through the steady observation of life's rhythms and the acceptance of things as they are. Quiet contemplation teaches you that strength is not measured by how quickly problems are solved or challenges are removed, but by the capacity to remain grounded, centered, and persistent in the face of them. This enduring patience enhances resilience, as you learn to navigate challenges without haste, frustration, or undue strain, moving through life with grace and stability. Quiet contemplation also deepens understanding of impermanence. By observing the ebb and flow of thoughts, feelings, and experiences, you see that nothing external is permanent. Life's conditions rise and fall like waves on the ocean, yet the inner observer remains untouched. Recognizing this impermanence allows you to release attachment to transient circumstances and find security in the unchanging presence of consciousness itself. This insight fosters a profound sense of liberation and confidence, because your strength is rooted not in what is fleeting, but in what endures beyond all change. The clarity gained through contemplation informs action. Strength is not mere passivity, it is the ability to act decisively, wisely, and effectively. When your mind is calm and your heart steady, you can respond to challenges with insight rather than reaction, with purpose rather than impulse. Decisions are guided by discernment cultivated through reflective awareness, rather than by panic, pressure, or external expectation. In this way, contemplation transforms inner strength into practical capability, allowing you to navigate the complexities of life with composure and skill. Quiet contemplation also nurtures humility and perspective. By turning inward, you recognize the vastness of your own consciousness in relation to external events. Minor difficulties lose their overwhelming quality, and you see challenges as opportunities to exercise and deepen inner resilience. Humility does not weaken strength, it refines it, allowing actions to be grounded in wisdom rather than ego. Perspective, cultivated through steady observation, enables you to maintain balance, respond appropriately to challenges, and remain connected to the deeper currents of life rather than being swept away by surface turbulence. As contemplation becomes a consistent practice, the seeker discovers that true power is subtle yet unshakable. It is a force that does not rely on circumstances, approval, or outcomes. It is the power of clarity, awareness, emotional balance, patience, discernment, and alignment with inner truth. This strength grows naturally, quietly, and persistently, revealing itself in the ability to face life with courage, composure, and integrity. Through quiet contemplation, the inner being is refined, sharpened, and strengthened in ways that outer circumstances can never achieve.